You may think that you've seen 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but never like this. Disney Studios has uncovered rare behind-the-scenes footage that was once considered lost. This amazing find, recently discovered in the Disney film vaults, will actually put you there on the sets, as an eyewitness to the making of Walt Disney's greatest live-action achievement.
One of the most bizarre and fantastic episodes that ever happened to me.
I have been called a difficult actor.
There were quite a few sharks. Everything they were doing down there was experimental.
I'm sick to my stomach looking at it because I know it's not working.
That was a huge major panic.
And we said, oh my God, that'll cost twice as much as you've already spent.
And that would close down the picture, maybe close the studio.
It all started with Disney's early fascination with an adventure under the sea.
Walt was, he'd always liked Jules Verne, and when he got the ideas about making a picture of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, early in his career, he never could have done it.
Unless, of course, it was to be an animated feature, which was Disney's initial idea. But fate intervened with a gifted Disney sketch artist. Harper Goff, a designer illustrator who worked directly for Disney on special projects, shared with him a passion for Jules Verne.
Walt went to England for many, many, many weeks in a row. So I just fantasized on the idea of making it a live-action film. I didn't draw it as if it was a cartoon. I just worked for the book. It was empirical. It followed every incident that was in Jules Verne original was in this version.
Goff began by drawing a few continuity sketches.
Until finally I had a layer of storyboards, about 15 boards sticking out into the room of the whole show. And so when Walt came back, he just raised one eyebrow as if to say, when the cat's away, the mice will play, you know. And he said, what do you expect us to do? And I said, well, he says, this is live action, you know. I just thought you might do live action.
When Disney saw Goff's artwork, he had a moment of inspiration that would ultimately put the future of his studio and his plans for Disneyland in jeopardy. His first decision was to scrap his idea of making an animated version of 20,000 Leagues.
Walt had had some experience with live action just prior to 20,000 Leagues in England. And he, I think, being interested in the notion of diversification, hit on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea as a story that had always fascinated him.
He saw this as an opportunity, combining Technicolor and the CinemaScope format, and also shooting underwater, plus the characters, plus the submarine and the giant squid. All of these things appealed to his imagination, and again, he wanted to go in different directions. He didn't want to keep repeating himself all the time.
In 1953, Walt Disney Studios changed forever. The once quiet animation studio suddenly bustled with the construction of new shops and sound stages needed to accommodate live-action filming.
Most of the people he used were from elsewhere.
This was a major, major step, and they wanted to get the best people they could in Hollywood.
Disney hired 20th Century Fox's veteran film pioneer Ralph Hamerus to handle the ambitious miniature effects photography. And then he continued gathering together an amazing collection of Hollywood talent that included four-time Oscar-nominated cinematographer Franz Planer, Oscar-winning film editor Elmo Williams, and Oscar-winning set decorator Emil Curie, as well as one surprising hire for the most important position on the film.
The story of my getting the job of directing 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is, in my view, one of the most bizarre and fantastic episodes that ever happened to me. My father, Max Fleischer, and Walt Disney were great competitors.
Richard Fleischer is the son of Max Fleischer, who did Out of the Inkwell comedies.
So it was a great surprise to me when Walt offered me the job of directing 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which would be the Disney Studios' first completely live-action film. And I said, well, Walt, I would love to do this more than anything in the world. This is exactly what I've been looking for, hoping for. But since we have a situation with my father, I wouldn't want him to feel that I was somehow being disloyal to him by working for you. So I phoned my father in New York, and he said, well, you must, by all means, you must take that job. And he said, tell Walt something for me, give him a message. And I said, sure, what is it? He said, you tell Walt he's got great taste in directors. So, happy ending.
So Dick Fleischer was brought in, introduced to me, and I went over the storyboard with him.
Having secured a director, Disney then ran headlong into his first dilemma: how to turn Jules Verne's problematic story into an exciting feature film.
I sat down and read it and was appalled after I'd read the book that there was really no story. It was a series of more or less unconnected episodes. And I had brought on with me a writer, Earl Felton.
Walt believed that the director should cooperate with the writer to developing the story, and he wanted to give him plenty of time.
And we both had the same opinion. How are we going to make a story out of this? Earl Felton came up with really a brilliant suggestion. He said, what we have to do is treat this story as a jailbreak story.
Pick up those two men in the water.
Aye, sir. What about the other one?
Take them all below and confine them to quarters.
These are men imprisoned in a submarine, and their whole thrust is to get out of the sub.
I want to escape.
So do I, with you. And we have to save the professor in spite of himself.
It's interesting, at the beginning of the picture, I was up in my place in the animation building, and Dick Fleischer had an office down the hall a bit. And he and the writer, Earl Felton, were there still writing the story, Walt would come in, and this would often be around 6 o'clock. Earl spent every evening up here writing new dialogue with Walt. Earl got a little tired of Walt coming in about 6 o'clock and giving them homework to do all evening. So he would, when he was going home, he would go along side corridors in case Walt stopped. Hey, Earl, I've just had another idea. So Walt was literally, right up to here in that film.
So between the two, the squid and the octopus, it's the squid who's the real villain.
Well, it was a critical picture for him because it was his first live-action piece. No one in this town, in Hollywood, wanted to take him seriously as a film producer. They looked at the animated features as being cartoons, and the features were, amazing, glorified cartoons, 7 Oscars for Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, but still he wasn't considered a live-action filmmaker. So 20,000 Leagues was a major, major step for him. He paid a great deal of attention to everything that was going on.
In his book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Mr. Verne himself imagined some pretty weird and wonderful things.
Walt had a way of immersing himself in an idea. He would sort of go into a trance where he wouldn't hear you, and his eyes stare, and his mouth would move, and you would see he was going through some part of that scene. He was acting.
He acted out everything that he was describing.
In his mind, he'd seen the whole thing. He'd seen the space, he'd seen the action. He was part of it.